Nothing does my heart better than seeing a band that had a lot of help from other artists kind of break free and fly their own. It's almost like watching like a baby bird fly for the first time, or a kid that took off its training wheels and is riding its bike. It's like, you're free, do what you want, and it just warms my heart. So yeah, let's talk about this. Dominion by Zopp. So Zopp is a relatively new outfit coming out of the UK. It is the brainchild of the multi-instrumentalist of Ryan Stevenson, with collaborations from drummer Andrea Monta from Leviathan. Within the first record, just self-titled, he had quite a bit of help from Andy Tillison of The Tangent, Theo Travis, and a lot of other like prominent musicians and artists from the prog scene that kind of dabble a lot into the Canterbury scene. What really caught my attention with Ryan was his work with movie scores, specifically on documentaries, and I think he actually won an award for one. But I love that kind of like background music that allows you to pay attention and set a mood. And I love when an artist kind of gets their start there, because that really is the crux, the genesis of so many great soundscapes when it comes to progressive rock, specifically in the Canterbury scene as well. And I'll admit, I'm not the most well-versed in the Canterbury scene. It's a genre of prog that I'm trying to get more into and more familiar with. And I really loved what they were doing with their self-titled debut album from 2020. I was loving the sounds that were on there. It felt like a breath of fresh air while still being quite familiar, specifically within the Canterbury scenes. And so I was really looking forward to anything that they would do next, anything that they would put out next. And it seems as though within this one, very similarly with Ryan being kind of the driving force and Andrea being the purveyor of the rhythms to kind of flush it all out, there's quite a bit of help on this album, but just with flushing out and filling it out in terms of an orchestra. We have vocals and lots of different voices provided by Sally Minier, I think, and Carolyn Joy Clark, as well as lots of flutes, saxophones, French horns, gongs, and additional cymbals. But you don't kind of have that same kind of, I don't want to say crutch, but influence from those already pre-established artists. So it really does allow Ryan to stretch his wings and really kind of sink or swim. And I gotta say, I love this album a lot more than I like their original debut album. I've been loving this album. It continues on and develops Ryan's sounds that he was putting on with that original album. And I'm loving this. A part of the reason why I think I love this album a lot more than their original one, A, it's a little bit shorter, but B, it has two tracks that are well within the 10-minute plus mark. The second track of You and the final track of Toxicity. These two tracks really does showcase Ryan's skill at composition within the music. His ability to build up a track, the ebbs and flows, even though it doesn't have like that big swelling kind of crescendo moments or the call and response moments, or even like the kind of setup and payoffs. There's never a dull moment. Everything is very realized in terms of atmosphere, in terms of mood. The ideas that are placed down on here are very fully realized. And a lot of that has to do with Ryan's compositions and his kind of orchestrations of everything. He doesn't use a lot of these other instruments like the saxophone, like the French horns, like the flutes, as crutches or as flourishes. He uses it in the way that it elevates the music further into the ideas that he has. Now, that going on, I love his use of the more traditional prog stuff, like the Hammond organ, the mellotron, the electric pianos, the Korg MS-20, all those things. It gives me the good feels when I'm hearing a lot of these instruments, and really those are the focal points that the rest of the instruments are kind of elevating and lifting up. Even with those two lovely tracks, I love some of the smaller moments on here as well. The fourth track, Up Marks Kempschmidt, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it again, as well as Weichmann approaching, what is that? Weichmann approaching, the sixth track. these two smaller tracks really do help not only pad the album in terms of run length, but also just kind of allow for the accents and us to breathe between these bigger tracks that are kind of surrounding it. I will also admit I love the structure of this album. You know, starting off very small with Armor Fatty, just a 2-minute quick one before we getting into that big first track of You. And then we kind of have this smaller sandwich little island with the third, fourth, and fifth track that then allows us to go into the kind of 6-track overture into the big Toxicity. And I can talk endlessly about how much I love Toxicity, but really, I just love the different flavors. I love the different colors, the different feelings and ideas. You know, we never quite get to that same bombardment of music that we would get from other genres like neo-prog or retro-prog, or even like, obviously not metal prog. But you get that cacophony of sounds and soundscapes, you know? It's almost like a very dense stew where it's not spicy, it's not sour, it's not like all those like really abrasive flavors, but it's hearty. You know, there's a lot going on. I also just love the fact that it's pleasant, you know, like even though it's a little bit darker than their debut album, I love the fact that a lot of the soundscapes on here are very pleasant to listen to. Like, even though there's a lot of complex things going on, at no point do I ever have to like stop and think too hard about like the rhythm sections, about the like complex time signatures that are going on, or like the math rock aspects of it. It's just such a pleasant meadow of a soundscape. You know, it's just great music. So yeah, in the end, Dominion from Zopp really did surprise me. And that's coming from a fantastic debut album. They took what they learned and improved upon it, you know, and that's of every facet of this record. So I will say that Dominion from Zopp is one that I would absolutely pick up in physical format. You know, this is one that I think you're going to want on your collection. I think that this is one to look out for like the year ends, kind of top 10s. So far, this has been my favorite record of the year. And we've already had a handful of really good records being released. So yeah, do yourself a favor and check it out. You know, this is a great entry point for Zopp as well. I mean, their first record was fantastic, but this one I think is even better. And I really cannot wait for whatever Zopp has in store for their third album, because I'm sure they're going to take what they learned here and improve upon it even further. So yeah, go and check it out. It gets the note seal of approval. And that's what I've got for Zopp and their sophomore album of Dominion. What did you guys think about this album? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, please let me know by commenting down below. And yeah, that's what I've got. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.